Now, this video is going to take some of what we were doing in our kind of rhythm introduction and drums, and we're going to program our own drum beat in Soundtrap. So remember we talked about the main three drums: our kick drum, boom, our snare drum, cack, and our hi-hat, closed hi-hat, open hi-hat, toms, do 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 do, crash cymbals and stuff. Who needs a drum set? You got me. We're going to be looking at a grid like this. So we have boom, cack, boom, cack, boom, cack, boom, cack. Probably something, I'm not going to look at this. Let's go right into Soundtrap. And what I have done, because I think it's a good, excuse me, a good way to practice as you're getting started, is I've put in a drum loop. And let's listen to it. 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Kick, snare, hi. It's a ride cymbal. Ting, 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 ting. But we'll probably use a hi-hat. Okay, so how do we make our own drum beat? And I have discovered in my initial exploration of Soundtrap that there's a couple of different ways, a few different ways. So first things first, we need to create a track. You can do that here by clicking Add New Track, or you can do it right here. It's the same thing. And apparently, I just figured this out. There's even a third way if you're going to do drums, which is to bring up the beat maker, but I'll explain that. So when you hit New Track, you can choose, I want to record my voice with a microphone. I want a piano. I want drums, bass or guitar or drums. To be honest, these three things are pretty much the same. You can change this instrument track from a piano to a guitar or a drum, but they kind of help you cut a couple of steps. So I'm going to bring up drums because I do want to make drums. And right away, this is the pattern beat maker, they call it, I guess. And the idea with this, and I am going to go over the multiple ways to look at it. We'll probably all discover that that we have a way that we like to do it. What this represents is from 1 to 2 is a measure. So if there's 4 squares in each of these, if there's 16 squares, what do these represent? They represent 16th notes. So the first of the 4 is beat 1. The first of the second group of 4 is beat 2, 3, 4. So by just clicking on those, what I've done is I've put in a kick drum, snare, kick, snare. And you can see that up here, and we'll come back to that in a minute. So really what I want to do, I'm going to mute this and just listen. All right. So I do hear kick, snare, kick, snare. So if I bring this in, the hope is we have basically the same thing. Now, my guess is what we were hearing on that ride cymbal is 16th notes. No, we were hearing 8th notes. So I am unclicking, and now I have 8th notes. All right. I forgot that our tempo, just because of the nature of this loop, was 134. That's quite fast. Remembering from the previous video, I am going to put on cycle mode. And I have a feeling because we have one measure, it's going to cycle that one measure. It's not showing up on here, which is interesting to me. Oops. Why is it what? No. I want my cycle. Okay, we're learning. I'm going to zoom out here, and I'm going to bring my cycle back over here. And that's all that takes. It was an 8-measure cycle, and then I'm going to shorten it because I just want to hear my 1 measure. Okay, so I have made a 1-measure, very basic drum loop. Now I could move on to my 2nd measure. Turn off the cycle. 1, 2, 3, 4. This time I'm going to boom, cack, boom, boom, cack. I'm going to keep these going. I am going to input 16th notes here just to change it up a little bit. And now I have 2 measures. If I want to add instruments, those of you who play drums, if kick, snare, and hi-hat are instruments, I hit add, and I have an open hi-hat, and I can just turn that off and turn that one on. Okay, my cycle was off, so it wasn't playing my 2 measures. Now you can bring in crashes, and here, you can really bring up pretty much anything. All right, so that is essentially the pattern generator that they have. If I choose to look at this in what's called the piano roll, and to be honest, this is much more familiar. It's not. I've worked with pattern generators plenty. But the piano roll is kind of how I work in Pro Tools and other apps. And what you see here are the notes, the same idea as it plays different keys, different notes on the piano. So if you're not familiar with the piano, then you're not ready for the piano roll for drums, and stick with the pattern generator. This just gives you a different view, and for me, it's a bit easier. Actually, it's not. It's the same. But for example, if I arm this track, I am playing C1 now on my keyboard. I'm hitting C and D for the snare drum. F sharp is the hi-hat. You can move these around. So this is kind of cool because you don't have to load up a different instrument. In the pattern generator, remember, I had to add instruments. Okay, and it definitely have some ability to play around. I would be careful with those though, because they carry pitch, and as you're building a song, you'll know more about that when I do a video on keys on a piano. All right, so we've made a 2-measure drum beat, and we made a 2-measure drum beat. What I would like you to now do is to know that when you highlight a clip and you hold down Shift and highlight another one, now you have both of them highlighted. Shift, click, Shift, click. That's going to keep your clips highlighted. Now, if you hit copy, Command C, place your cursor at measure 3, go Command V or paste, you're going to have a 4-measure loop. Now I hold Shift and highlight, and I hit copy, and now because my cursor is already there, I was able to duplicate this out to be 8 measures. Now, variety is the spice of life. If you wanted to go into your 4th measure, for example. Now, you could do this a number of ways. If I double click here, it brings up the pattern generator or the piano roll. Now you can see measure by measure everything that I have. But I would recommend I'm going to place my cursor right here because that's where I want to play. And I zoom in, and that's important because when you zoom at this level, it's zooming into right where you are. I'm going to add a couple snare drums, okay, just to give me a different drum fill, a little flavor. Going to instrument. So we talked about the pattern generator. We talked about the piano roll. Instrument. This is kind of cool because even if you don't have a MIDI drum set, you can hit the A on your computer keyboard for your kick drum and D for your snare drum. And if I wanted to, I'm going to place my cursor here so I don't mess up what I have. If I have my metronome on, my count in is 2 measures. Let me zoom out a little bit. And I'm going to hit record, and I'm going to hit, A and D. What happened there? That wasn't cool. Why did it go back? Oh, okay. It's actually giving me a 2-measure lead in. So instead of, I think, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so those of you who were listening to the click track in my playing, that did not, I was off beat. So if we listen to that, not very good. Now I'm learning as I do this. If I double click here, it says, hey, the region contains unquantized notes. Quantizing is a really important concept. It means rounding to the nearest correct note. So if I meant to hit my kick drum on beat 1 and I just missed, let me show you. I don't want to quantize those notes because I want to show you something. Let's go to the piano roll and I'll zoom in. You can see that these notes are late. So this, I can move it by hand, or I can do what's called quantizing, and it will do it for me. And while I was just playing around, there's also, I'm just going to get rid of all this because it was so bad. I'm going to do it again, and I'm going to, on the instrument, I'm going to turn on here auto quantize, and I'm going to do it to eighth notes because I don't think that I'm going to hit any fast drum rolls that would get off. So I'm just going to stick to the kind of the kick and the snare. I'm not going to go ta. I'm going to go boom, cack, boom, boom, cack. Okay. So it's going to give me an 8 count by playing the previous 2 measures. 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4. That was not too good. I couldn't hear it, but it played it and it recorded it. Let's see. Interesting. We'll have to look at that because not hearing the drums is no fun. But it's on beat. All right. So you can play that. You can also play on your MIDI keyboard if you have one, except that it is not A in that instance. This is actually C1, D1, F sharp 1, for those of you who know piano. Over here, this is actually the drum sound. So we're in the drums category. They call it machines for some reason. I'm interested in a drum kit. And I think that if I change this to 70s, I don't know why. Oh, it gave me more drums. I guess they played with more drums in the 70s. It's more of a rock and roll kind of straight ahead acoustic drum set. But that, going back to the piano roll, C1 is still a kick drum. That's kind of a universal. D1 is a snare drum. F sharp is the hi-hat. So you can change the drum set, instrument, kits, and let's see what the 60s sound like. Interesting. The kick and the snare kind of sound pretty similar. The Brampton kit, that was the Brampton loops were pretty cool. So I'm expecting this to be more like a trap sounding kit, but I don't have a trap sounding drum beat right now. Hey, we're producers. Okay, so the goal today, or for this exercise, will be to make a drum beat that it is at least 2 measures long, meaning that there's some difference between the first measure and the second measure, whether that's some extra hi-hats, a drum roll on the snare drum or anything, or an open hi-hat, doesn't have to be much. Then we're going to select, select, shift, select, and make sure that you can duplicate that out to be at least 8 measures. Okay, so what we're looking for essentially is an 8 measure drum beat that you put in either with the pattern generator, with the piano roll. It can be any drum set. I will start you off with this basic drum beat as well, and we'll kind of do that as an assignment.